Okay.
another mic. Somebody's doing it.
No, we don't need that. I mean, we've got mics, so.
Okay, so we're good. So
Yeah, we're good.
are you sure?
Yeah.
But it kind of looks good for you.
No, you don't need.
Cool.
Yeah, when you're ready.
All right. Welcome. Good afternoon, Miss Julie. It's such a privilege and honor to be able to go through this interview with you, to ask you, I think as one of the long-standing residents of Sheffield, it would be great to kind of see your perspective on how you have been, like from a culture and community base, what your take has been since you've been living in Sheffield for about 25 years,
Yes.
I must say.
Okay.
Yeah, would you like to introduce yourself so our guests will be able to know who you are and a little bit about yourself?
Okay. My name is Juliet Mugabe. I've got the famous name. And I'm a mother of 2 girls. And I came to Sheffield, like we said, in June 2001. So I'm going to be 25 years next month in this country.
Oh, wow.
And
That's
I've
incredible.
seen a few changes over the time. And
So do you want to elaborate on a bit more changes? So how old were you when you first moved to Sheffield?
I was in my 40s, early 40s.
In the 40s. So where did you originate from initially before you came to Sheffield?
My homestead is from Mashingo, but I mean, I was based in Harare. That's where I was working. And then we recruited, because I went through the healthcare system. There was a need for a lot of healthcare personnel at that time, so much that it was very easy to come over. And I remember people just used to come on a visitor's visa. And once you state that you are in the health profession and whatever, they will just process you from here straight away. You didn't even need to go back. So that's how good it was. And by the time I came, actually, I had all the paperwork done, work permit and everything. And with my name, actually, I think it was a good idea. It was a good thing that I had it, because I was asked a lot of questions around that name.
Yes.
Simply because I think it was just a little bit of politics at play.
So at the time when you came, how was the culture like in Sheffield at the time? Do you mind just elaborating on how was it like? Did you feel like you belonged in the community, or did you feel like you had to kind of figure out to find a way for a sense of belonging?
I think it was a little bit difficult because there were not very many of us visible, I mean, in the community. We later on realized that there is a few of us scattered around. But where I was based, actually, I didn't know a lot of people. But fortunately, there were some colleagues that were from Zambia and other African countries that took us under our wing. And notably, even one of the ladies that was actually resident here in Sheffield, she took me under a wing. I mean, I wouldn't mention her name, but I think Lengan actually knows her. She was my mentor from the Caribbean, a very brilliant lady. And she helped a lot of us because, for starters, even the way the dialogue, the accent, I was struggling to understand it, you know, the Yorkshire accent.
So how did you combat that? Because that must have been one of the biggest barriers.
I know it was. And it was just persistence. What could you do? You are here and you want to be here and you want to work and whatever. So we had to go through that, and there were, not to say the people that I encountered, I don't think they were meant to be difficult or whatever. Everything was new to them.
Yes.
The experience was new to me. It was also,
yeah.
And there were also the questions with that. All these people, what are they coming to do here? What do we need all these people? You know, people are just afraid of something that is different. Yeah.
So
it was a culture shock for them. So it took a while to understand each other, and in the end, we just blended and became sort of like a family. But it was an uphill struggle.
Up and down struggle.
Yeah.
So do you want to give some examples how it was like to kind of live next door to your neighbors, and how did you manage to build those relationships with your neighbors?
Again, like I said, you stand out, you just try to, in the end, I think I just ended up having to take people as they are. because one of the people that I met in the community who was also dealing with a lot of racism and whatever told me, I said, so how do you deal with the people? He said, you take people as they come,
Absolutely.
as they come. Don't have this blanket label for everybody to sort of say, they are like this, they are like that. No, you take them as they come. If someone is nice to you, you become nice. They say, don't be too polite, but don't be rude. Don't take any rubbish to anybody's yard. At the same, don't accept any rubbish from anybody's yard as well. So that really resonated with me and it stayed with me, and I just started treating people the way they are.
So it sounds like having that sense of building that community around yourself is what helped you to kind of navigate those challenges and those barriers,
Yes.
especially being in a new country,
Yes.
experiencing the culture shock.
Yes.
Must have been, a shock to the system.
Yes.
Yeah. So, well,
There were those that were grateful to have us around because they needed us.
Yes.
But then there was those that were still, and maybe not even thinking that we are any good, because we to be asked to write essays to show our proficiency in English. And most of us, notwithstanding whatever grade you were, you sort of were just started on the same, on the same level. So that was a little bit, but it is what it is.
So what were some of the kind of steps? I know you've talked about finding people and connecting with other people who are from maybe within the same culture as you to kind of build that community. What were the other steps that you took to try and educate those people, or to try and create a sense of belonging and create that comfort to say, I'm also here as much as I want to learn. We want us to live happily together. So what were the other things that you did to kind of help to break those stereotypical barriers?
It wasn't easy though. It wasn't easy. You just,
Absolutely, I would
because
imagine.
sometimes you just get into the coffee room, you sit, and some people start either standing up and joining their own kind or whatever. And with time, we also learned as we got more and more, we also started being in clusters. And then as we started working together and they knew us and we knew them, we meddled. It didn't happen overnight.
It was
A work in
baby
progress,
steps,
yeah,
work in
baby
progress.
steps, yes.
So if we look back in when you came to now, we're in 2026, what would you say has been one of the biggest shifts within Sheffield, within the community? And you can say, I've seen that big change. There's been, a lot of maybe the government or the local community have done community-based events that will help to bring different communities together and and create that diverse culture for us within Sheffield. So were there any kind of community events that the local council would run to try and bring people from different culture to bring that community together?
If there were, I think maybe I wasn't much aware of it. To be honest with you, when we came, we were sort of like economic immigrants.
Yes.
So we were really based in working. I didn't even think I was going to work, to be in this country for more than 5 years. 5 years was sort of like my cut-off point. But then you find by the time it's 5 years and you haven't actually completed the thing that you thought you would have completed and gone back. So it was work, home, work, home, work, home, work, most of the time. But
so what was it like? So did at one point you think, okay, maybe Sheffield is not the place for me, maybe I need to relocate somewhere else? What was it like? What were your thoughts?
I don't think it was, for me, I didn't really think moving to another city would help. There were times when I thought going back home might be the best option. I'd passed through London and I'd visited somebody in London and I didn't like it from the word go. It was too fast for me and too busy. So Sheffield is a little bit, it's laid back.
So do you feel now, comparing the time when you came, which is almost 25 years this month, and now, do you think Sheffield has become more diverse then? And are you seeing the changes, and what kind of changes are you seeing?
Yeah, it's more diverse, and I think I'm seeing more and more of different other cultures, not just from the continent, our continent. And there's also provision of, I think even in the shops, we started seeing our food stuff as well. meaning I think we are being sort of like
Assessment.
inclusion,
There's
welcome.
inclusion, yeah. So which is
inclusion,
quite
yes.
good, because obviously
Yes.
taking into account that there's so much culture changes around the world in different cities.
Yes.
People are migrating from different countries,
Mm.
so embedding and bringing that sense of belonging for the
Yeah.
community is very important.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that must have been so exciting to now see some of the familiar foods that you would see in the local
Yes.
shops rather than waiting from somebody
Yes.
to bring them from home. That must
Yeah.
have brought some comfort to you.
Yeah, it did. And for me, I think the the organization Sadaka, I don't know if you're aware of it. You know it's Sadaka.
Yes,
It stands for Sheffield and District African Caribbean Community Association.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's for, our community.
Okay.
So it was sort of like second home to me, because they would then meet among ourselves and we could have events, and then we could even invite other people. And I remember, unfortunately I can't remember which year, we even had an event and we celebrated Africa Day, like the 25th of May. And it was quite a success. That's when we even invited a lot of our colleagues, the local, the English people to that event. They attended and they had a wonderful time. So from that time, I think we're sort of like,
We're breaking those
breaking barriers, yeah.
Which is
And we also started going to their living do's and their functions, if you'd be invited and stuff like that.
So how does that make you feel now, from the 25 years ago when you first moved to Sheffield,
Yeah.
and now in 2026, how does Miss Julie feel now?
We just feel there's been a milestone. It's a milestone. Yeah, it's still. I don't think our youngsters are going to experience a lot of that as such, because they seem to be more. What's the word? Cohesive. I don't think they see the barriers that we used to see. Yeah.
So it seems like you have fought the battle in order for this new generation to be able to experience that diversity in Sheffield. So you guys have fought the fight, a good fight in a way, to create that diversity, so that the forthcoming generations will be able to enjoy that and be able to see Sheffield in a new light.
Yeah, I think in a way, especially for those that are born here or the ones that come when they were very young, because if you know the person from the inception, it's not a stranger. The thing with us is we were strangers. And there were people that had not even seen, dark-skinned people, you know that? And when I was at work, do you know a strange question? I remember one time that stands in my mind when someone actually asked me, said, I did say, when I said I wanted to go back home, when I was taking some annual leave, and they said, going back home? Where do you come from? I said, from Zimbabwe. I said, can you go back home? They thought, I said, yes, I can go back home. Is it safe?
What was it like? So is it because they had this notion that people only migrate for the reason that their country is not safe?
Yeah, maybe.
Rather than for career opportunities and looking for a better life. So they had this notion that people only migrate because their countries is not safe.
Yeah. So I said, no, it's safe. I can actually go and come back and whatever. And then another strange question which was even more bizarre. We were talking about, like, something came up, and then we said the hospital, and they said, are there hospitals in Zimbabwe? And I'm thinking.
How did you feel when somebody kind of asks you a question where you'll be like, don't you think that?
So I actually said, so you think I'm a bogus nurse or whatever? Because, we're laughing. In a jocular manner. But I don't know where that actually came from, because I don't know. Can there be a country? The health system might not be up to scratch or whatever, but I think every country has got some form of healthcare system.
But then it goes again to show that it's all about what you know and what you expose yourself to.
Yes.
It must have been an insight. It must have been a interesting occasion when somebody will ask you something like that. You would think that from the offset, how would you think people would have gone through the birth system, or people are ill? It just goes on to show you have to expose yourself to knowledge in order for you to understand that there's other people do live. It might be different cultures, but we have the same access.
But I also have the media to blame, because they don't portray us in a very good light. Yeah, it's always negative. So sometimes when they see they say, really, are you from? They're actually surprised, because they always expect the West, that they are being shown on the media most of the time.
So What would you say is one story that that should never be forgotten about Sheffield? What stand out the most for you? Is there a particular story that you can say, okay, this is something that has happened in Sheffield that I can share with my grandchildren, or I want to share with the forthcoming generation so they understand there's something beautiful or something that has changed Sheffield from the 25 years experience of you living in Sheffield?
The change that was there, unfortunately, is no longer there, but I would have wished it to continue, was when there was a school called Imhotep Saturday School, which was housed within the Sadaka building itself.
Okay.
That
So tell us more, what was
that
this
school,
about?
it was African history and worldview, and it ran for 24 years.
Was it government, community funded based?
No,
was
it was parents actually funded the school.
So what was the reason for them? Was it to try and educate the community about African culture, or was
It was mostly for African children of Africans and African descent. So mostly it was African Caribbean.
So what sort of kind of activities or community-based events did they run to kind of help the children, to make them, to create that sense of belonging within the community? What sort of stuff did they run at the school?
They did a lot. They would visit a lot of places of importance. They've even been to Africa, I think 3 times.
Oh, so
They went to Ghana. They went to Egypt to see the pyramids, and to Ghana to see the Elimino castles, you know, where people were being, when the enslaved Africans were taken from.
So what was it like for
it
them
was
to
it was
kind of-
mostly a history, to learn people, to teach the children about their proper African history, not the way it's being, you know, portrayed by the media, one, two, and general overview. So it gave, to me, it was from the testimony of the parents, it gave a lot of confidence to the children, to the pupils that attended that school.
So do you feel like it would be something that would be a beneficial community-based school to
Yes.
have, to bring back in Sheffield UK?
Yes,
to
yes,
kind of
I think so.
help, you know,
Yes.
the forthcoming generation to understand the history, African history, and or also just bring a sense of belonging to other cultures, because it's not just
Yes,
maybe the African descendant that want to understand about the African culture, but it's to educate the community as a whole.
yes, yes. Because I think it's still, even among the parents that had their children at that school, they, something that they always wish, they say they wish somebody could just, you know, take it on and, you know, continue, because the founder, who just happened to be my late partner, passed on. So that's why they were saying, hoping maybe among his pupils, there might be somebody who might be willing to take it on. But I think times have changed in the sense that when the school was running, the teachers were not paid. It was all voluntary work. So it was a labor of love, yeah. And the students were not paying any school fees. They only fundraised for the things that they need and for the trips. So maybe in the current situation, it might be difficult to find someone who will be willing to do such work without you know, an income, because people still need to
If
live,
there's
you
an
know.
opportunity, let's say that there's been funding that's been made available to create that, would you be one of the persons that would love to share the story of Sheffield or the history that you carry so much? For somebody who has migrated and lived in Sheffield for 25 years, you
Yeah.
have a lot to, you know, to contribute to the next generation. Would it be something that you would be willing to partake in helping start that school?
Yes, yes. But it will just depends on because the reason why they didn't have funding was not because there wasn't any, but they wanted sort of like autonomy to be able to teach what they wanted to teach without any controls. Because the moment you are funded by somebody, you start being told what you can and what you cannot teach. And the aim was actually to tell it the way it is, not to sugarcoat anything.
Awesome. So if for the future generations that will look and hear this interview, what would be the story that you would want to share, or a few takeaways that you would want them to remember about Miss Julie and the history of living in Sheffield and breaking those culture barriers?
Yeah, that's a loaded question.
We can break it down. in
Yeah,
that.
please do.
Okay, so if for the future generations that will look at this interview, what
Mhm.
would be a couple of things that you would want them to remember about Sheffield?
Sheffield is a lovely place. I like it actually. I can't see myself living anywhere else. It has got warm people. It's friendly. It's the community or even the cultures here. I think they're tolerant. The more as they get to know more and more of people, so it's actually what you make of it. If you are good to people, people will be good to you. Yeah.
Thank you very
Thanks.
much, Miss Julie. Is there anything that you would want to say in closing that stand out the most for you about Sheffield as a whole and your whole experience?
I just wish the younger generation just to remember their roots and not to forget themselves and be wayward, to respect their parents and to focus on their education and acquiring. There's a lot of opportunities for children here to
Do you
do.
want to share some of those opportunities that you see?
Because where I come from, a lot of people are underprivileged. They can't afford education. Here, there's a lot that the children can do, but maybe it's because it's free or what. People don't tend to. They take
value
it.
that.
Yeah, they take it for granted. Honestly, they take it for granted, because in Africa, you find in other cultures, no matter how impoverished or how poor the family is, they still want to make sure that the child goes to school, gets an education, because that's it paves the way for the child. So,
Thank you very much, Miss Julie. It's been absolutely a privilege to interview
okay.
somebody who's lived in Sheffield for 25 years and sharing your experience. So thank you very much for taking this time to share your story and your journey so far in breaking the community barriers and creating that sense of belonging in Sheffield.
Okay,
So
I thank you.
very much.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Awesome.
Howard?